Hey everybody, I am John Anderson, Director of Media for Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. We are Nebraska's voice on Second Amendment issues. We're followed by almost 30,000 Nebraskans who strongly believe in the rights and freedoms protected by the Second Amendment. We invited candidates running for Congress, Governor, Nebraska State Legislature, City Council, and County Sheriff to participate in our Online Townhall Series called Meet the Candidates. Our format for the event is an online recorded interview. Each recording is unedited. Our members have prepared questions to assess candidates running for elected office. I'd like to introduce Russ Barger, who is running for Nebraska Legislature in District 26. Russ, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump in here. The first question is, why did you agree to participate in this online town hall with Nebraska Firearms Owners Association?
Well, I am obviously running for District 6 in the legislature. I've been a conservative for a very long time. I've been an NRA member. I couldn't actually figure out how long ago it was. It's whenever Obama started his second term, but it's been a long time. All I know is I've gotten a bunch of free knives and bags every time I seem to renew with those folks. In this part of the city, I'm pretty certain that I may be the only one who is a strong Second Amendment advocate. We've been hunting and fishing for a long time. So it's part of what our founders wanted us to have.
All right. Next, our members want to know, what is your favorite firearm and how often do you shoot it?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we just got a new, I don't know, I really like the new deer rifle we got. It's a Savage 25-06. Out where we shoot deer out in the western part of the state, we found that the 30-06, it drops too quickly and you get a little more velocity with the 25, and that seems to work just fine taking it down. And it has a pretty nice scope. We got a Nikon scope with it. Although, my 870, I can just beat that dumb thing, but it keeps shooting turkeys and pheasants just fine. So my Remington 870 is probably still my go-to gun.
All right. And now we'd like to hear, what is the number one purpose of government?
The number one, it's to provide a structure of law so that people can operate as a society. It can neither be controlled by some kind of autocrat or dictator. You have to have the consent of the governed. But it also can't just be democracy run amok, which is essentially just anarchy. So it provides a system for mutual aid and protection, to allow businesses to function, to allow basically a culture to flourish. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. It's what allows a culture to flourish, a well-formed government.
All right. Our members have several issues of interest, so let's dive in with our next question. What are you going to do to protect Nebraskans from the federal government's attempts to restrict the Second Amendment?
I think actually helping people remember to go and fund the NRA is probably actually one of the best things you could do, whether you're in the state legislature or not. But beyond that, I support right to hunt and fish. I would support any law that protects gun owners' rights to be the ability to safely operate and carry a gun. There's a reason why the founders put the Second Amendment in the Constitution. And I think it's become clear, honestly, after watching the last couple of years, that it wasn't necessarily for us to just be able to hunt and fit or be able to hunt. There's also some self-protection. It might be to protect us from our own government at times. It does make us wonder. There's another reason the United States hasn't ever really been challenged. We have one of the largest standing armies, if you considered everyone that was well armed in the country.
All right, now we're going to go a bit further with some specific issues that we're addressing in Nebraska lately. What is your position on constitutional carry, and what will you do or what have you done in support of that position?
I can't say that I've really done anything thus far. I mean, I've talked to Senator Brewer about it. I mean, I support it at this point. Um, if this is what keeps the feds from coming in and trying to put some kind of overlay, whether it's registration or some other method to try and restrict gun ownership or to chill the desire to get a gun, uh, then we need to support that. Um, I have to admit, though, I would prefer that folks had at least some training, especially with handguns, before they got them. It does worry me a little bit, but it hasn't worried me enough. Let's say the benefits of constitutional carry outweigh the potential burdens, at least in my opinion.
Okay. All right, how about your position on red flag laws, and what will you do or what have you done in support of that position?
I don't know that much about that. I'll be honest. Um, can you explain to me what you mean by red flags? I've heard two different definitions.
I really can't, just to keep everything uniform in the interviews here. So let's just go with your understanding of what a red flag law is.
Well, I think it's when someone that engages in some kind of criminal activity, especially felonious activity, that they can have their firearms taken. So I think then if there's people who act erratically, like maybe they need to be committed or something, then maybe they have their firearms taken. That's my understanding of the two possibilities of it. If they've shown violent propensities, like they've threatened people with guns and they had a past history of mental illness, I might be supportive of them having their guns either given to the guardian or someone else can get the firearm rather than them. But it has to be fairly well defined.
Okay. All right. As one of the few states without it, let's discuss your thoughts on state preemption of firearm laws, and what will you do or have you done in support of that position?
State preemption. Oh, you're talking about over like a political subdivision, a city or something like that.
Right.
Yes, you don't need a checkerboard going across your state. When you drive from Omaha to Lincoln, suddenly when you get into Lancaster County, there's some strange law that requires you to make sure that whatever firearm you have has to have some kind of lock or something. The need for state preemption generally outweighs whatever kind of local interests might exist, in my opinion, because it just creates a minefield for people to potentially get into trouble most of the time without even knowing it, in my opinion.
All right. Recently, we had an opportunity to address some much needed protections via LB 300 Castle Doctrine. What are your thoughts on Castle Doctrine? And what will you do or have you done in support of that position?
Yes, I mean, that right of self-defense that you have in your own home, I think is just it's an absolute necessity. Um, I, we should have we should have a statutory version of the Castle Doctrine. I don't see any downside to that.
All right. In our state, we don't have the ability to remain in a place we are legally allowed to be, and we have a duty to retreat. What are your thoughts on duty to retreat, and what will you do or have you done in support of that position?
On that, I haven't done anything other than voting and talking with some of the senators about these issues in general. I mean, it depends on the level of force. At duty retreat, I mean, if you're being mortally threatened, I don't know that you have to retreat, especially if you're on your own property or you're basically backed up in a corner, either metaphorical or literal. So I would need to look at what the actual parameters of it are, but the first choice being to run away, it would be very dependent on the situation.
Okay. All right. In general, are there any specific gun laws that you think should get repealed?
In Nebraska?
Just in general.
Well, I mean, in Chicago and some of these other cities where they have really restrictive gun laws, basically you have to have federal litigation to try to hold them back, whether it's New York or Chicago. I mean, it's obvious that a lot of these things don't work. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such tremendous crime. I think murders in Chicago went to like early 90s type levels, and they have some of the most restrictive gun laws in the nation. So obviously, those systems don't work. The only people that would have guns in those situations would be the criminals, the perpetrators. So you've basically eviscerated the regular populace from being able to protect themselves.
All right. NFOA believes in education. What is your position on mandating firearm safety classes or programs in K through 12 public schools?
Mandating. I don't know that I would mandate it, but I would try to provide a carrot rather than a stick. Anytime I heard the word mandate, it concerns me. Now, for instance, if there was some kind of grant they could get from an association or some other foundation where they could get something that they wanted, if they did these kind of classes, there's got to be a way to turn this into more of an incentive rather than requiring it. I guess if I was to speak to the NFOA members, try the carrot first, then we'll deal with the stick.
Okay. Being a 2A supporter, what is your position on the intent and purpose of the Second Amendment?
Well, I think I probably answered that to a degree already, but it wasn't just to be able to hunt. The founders believed that it was necessary to allow the populace to be able to protect themselves. I'm assuming, I don't know whether that meant from enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't know if they realized that back at that point, but I think at this point, it's obvious that that could have very well been their intent. We're not a violent people by nature, but we have the right to protect one's own property and life. I mean, I'm sure that most of them read John Locke, and those three primary conditions for a healthy society: the right to life, liberty, property. The Second Amendment is one of the cornerstones to allow those to be protected.
Okay. And lastly, let's move to the Nebraska Constitution. How will Article 1, Section 1, the Statement of Rights of the Nebraska Constitution, impact your decision making in the role you are pursuing?
I wish I would have read that now. I don't know because I haven't read it lately. I read it about 3 months ago. Now I can't remember what it says.
All right. We will just let that be what it is then. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask for either follow-up or clarification on any of the answers that you've given us tonight, how can people reach out to you in order to do so?
Absolutely. So they can go to our website and fill out the follow-up form, which is pretty simple. Barger for Legislature, BARGER.com. Or they can email me at, well, let me state that again. It's Russ at bargerforlegislature.com. So RUSS, then the at symbol. Or they can call us. I think the phone number is on our website. I believe it's 531-530-8546.
All right. Thank you very much, Russ, for taking the time to sit down and answer these questions that our membership submitted to us. And we, like I said, we always appreciate all the candidates who are willing to sit down and just answer these questions. So again, I thank you for your time, and I will give you back the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks for setting this up. I hope that this was useful for the voters.
All right.